Hey y'all, welcome to Let's Be Real podcast with Taylor Jones. Today we have my very special friend, Addison Bratcher, or I guess Addison, but I call her Addy. She's just so amazing and she's impacted my life so much, and we actually met in nursing school, so just meeting someone like Addy is just such a blessing, especially in nursing school, because it gets so hard, but she's just so wise beyond her years. She's so smart and she's just so encouraging, so I'm just so excited to have her on the podcast.
I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, so I'm going to ask you, that I'm going to ask you, so what is something that has impacted your life that could impact someone else?
Okay, so starting off from the beginning of this year, I kind of asked myself, okay, what's your purpose? Why are you here? And so I was just pondering on that question for a little bit. And I was watching a video by Sadie Robertson, and she blatantly said in there, she was like, your purpose is to love people to Jesus.
Wise words of Sadie.
Yes, I love her. We both love her.
We both love Sadie.
Yes. So basically I was like, okay, God, like, thanks for that straight up answer. Like, I really needed that. And so I then was like, okay, what is it to love? Like, what does it look like to love, God?
Yeah.
And I continued to ask him, like, okay, what are ways I can love people? Like, if this is my purpose, like, I want to live it out completely. So some examples like he gave me were just being there for someone, giving them an encouragement.
She's so intentional with that. She would write us encouragement notes. Like, Addie, you are. She's just so sweet.
You're so sweet. I love you. But yeah, so I just kind of looked for ways to just love. And I honestly saw a lot of people looking to me differently and noticing those things. And I just didn't think anything of it. I was just like, it's just something nice for someone. But I mean, a note of encouragement can really mean so much to someone on a bad day.
Yes.
Or if they're going through something, and if you just text them and say, hey, I'm praying for you, that's just so that can be very just encouraging to someone who's going through something that. So I also, of course, Sadie Robertson, she posted a long Instagram post, and I read it, and in her post, she gave the verse 1 John 4:12, and she says, no one has ever seen God, but if we love one another, God abides in us, and his love is perfected in us. And so I thought that was really cool, because it was wow, really no one has seen God before, but if we were to love, people can see him through us.
Yes.
And I was like, so we're a direct reflection of God. And so, I was sitting there, and I was like, okay, I kind of feel like I want to go through this leadership route, kind of to love others and just be an encouragement. And so I was reading a book one time, and it said, in order to lead, you must serve first. And so in my mind, I was like, okay, I know mission trip's coming up. I kind of feel like I need to step into this role of serving others. So
that was a big thing for you. You always talk to me about that. So.
Definitely. And I, was kind of uncomfortable. I didn't know everyone, and I was like, okay, God, I know you're calling me to this. So I took a step of faith, and I signed up, and the Lord totally blessed it. He paid for my whole way in a I had 2 babysitting jobs that next weekend, and that paid for half of it. And I had a friend who said, I really feel called to pay for your trip. So it was just the Lord totally blessed it. I know he wanted me to go.
And it was the same day someone decided to pay for her mission trip, which she was struggling to figure out how she was going to come up with all that money. The same day we talked about that and her being anxious and just praying about that, the same day that lady blessed her with that money. So it was just so crazy how that happened.
Yes.
So that was a God thing. For
Such a God thing, and I knew he wanted me on that trip. So when I went on that trip, I got to love on people in Arizona, and my eyes were opened, and I was like, okay, God, I really feel you calling me to be a leader, to step into that role. And so when we got back, we were hit with the pandemic, and it was right around March, and we came back, and Texas was basically shut down.
Yep.
And I was like, wait, God, I was so on fire. I wanted to love on the people, you know, around me, and I was just on this like high. And
Yes.
so it was like, honestly, the enemy was like, oh no, you can't love now. Like, look at that. You can't even go outside. You're scared, you know, like people are wearing masks. You can't go and love on people. Like that's not, you know, your purpose. And so God was like, look, I will give you ways to love on people. And so, but that really, honestly, the enemy trying to get me sidetracked from this with the pandemic, honestly, it made me more on fire for this coming semester, and I'm ready to start getting together and loving on people and just being able to, you know, love intentionally and just be there for people and show them Jesus.
Yeah, I love that, and that's like something that I feel like everyone that knows you knows that about you, especially this year. I can tell, because I've known you like at nearly 1 year, which honestly seems way longer than that, but I can just see the transformation from last fall to this past spring, like you growing so much over that whole year I've known you, and like I can just see you constantly trying to love on others and encourage others and like make other people feel important, and like you're just constantly that light and that love, and that's what God is. God is love, and I'm so glad, like, and I know the pandemic for a lot of people, it kind of discouraged them and made them feel like, okay, I can't do anything right now, like I have no purpose. But you didn't stop that from continuing your purpose. Like you didn't let the devil stop you from fulfilling what God wanted for you. And so I just love that about you. And I think it's cool also because you were saying how you wanted to be a leader, and first to be a leader you wanted to serve. Well, now you're actually about to be a small group leader. And I know, like, for you, it was kind of hard committing to that because being a small group leader for the church we go to is Paradigm, and it's just a commitment. You have to commit to that, and that's important. And it's so good to be a leader to other people. And I know it was just kind of hard for you to make sure. Okay, I want to make sure this is like perfect for me, which you ended up. This is the best thing for you, and you knew God wanted that for you. But what brought you to the yes, like, okay, I'm 100% in, I know this is what I want, because I know you had doubts. What kind of even led to this small group thing for you?
So for me to say yes, I was on mission trip, and the guy that was speaking at the conference, or like in front of us in the church in Arizona, he said, disciples have to make sacrifice, and that's time, that's, energy, it's a big sacrifice, but sacrifice equals disciples. That's how he put it. And I was like, you know what? I can sacrifice my time. I can sacrifice, the energy that, I might have to be putting into nursing school, I'm going to put that into God's kingdom.
Yes.
And so I feel like that was more important, and I don't want to have nursing school take over my life. And so I think it's just really important to remember, we're not here to go to nursing school. We're not here to become nurses. We're here to make disciples, and we're here to
And that's just a bonus in the process, is to be a nursing student. That's just a bonus. That's not the focus.
Yes, exactly. And so that's kind of what my yes was, is that I can sacrifice a little sleep and a little time to make, to further the kingdom and
to lead other. And I think that's so cool. I actually get to join her small group. I'm so excited. And she's going to lead it, as well as one of her friends is going to lead it with her. So I just think that's such an encouraging thing, is to see you, even though you're in the midst of nursing school, and nursing school is hard, y'all. Like, it's a lot of time and a lot of commitment, but to see you be like, you know what? I know God's going to work through me, and I know I'm going to have time for this. There's so many things I can make excuses not to fulfill God's purpose for me, but you are continuing to do that. And not only did the pandemic not stop you, but nursing school's not stopping you either. You're just going to keep going and going, and you grow. You constantly are growing, and I think that's such a good trait to have. And another thing I wanted to talk to you about is how I think you are so good at embracing your season of life, particularly singleness. She's single right now, y'all. Ooh, but she's embracing it. But I think you're so good at embracing that. And I loved how one time you had talked to me about a light bulb moment you had and a revelation with being single and trying to figure out how to embrace that season. So do you just want to talk a little bit about that light bulb moment, I guess?
Yeah. So The verse Philippians 4:11 says that we need to be content in every situation we're in, and I think that's kind of hard to say because it's like, oh well, right now I'm sitting with no money in my bank account, or right now I am sitting at a F in my class. How am I supposed to be content right now? And Paul says that in Philippians. When he's in prison, he's been beaten and battered and starving, and there's so much going on, but he's like, I'm in no need right now. I'm perfectly content. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, here I am. I'm single. Like
it's easy to overthink that too, yes, and kind of compare.
Yes. And yes, a lot of people are like, well, they're scrolling through Instagram, they're scrolling through Facebook, seeing all these new engagements, and it can get discouraging for some people. But I know the Lord has a plan for me, and that is my 100% confidence, and I know that I don't have to be at everyone else's level of life. Everyone's going through different seasons at every time, and right now I'm sitting single, and I've totally grown in the Lord in my singleness, and I've found my purpose, and I've been able to be intentional and spend more time with friends than I ever have before, and so it's been a really cool season.
Yeah, and I love that, how you kind of mentioned, you don't find your significance in another person. Yes. You find your significance in God, and once you can figure that out, you will thrive in the next relationship you have, and I know that, and I just love so much how you embrace that season of life, because I feel like it's important to embrace any season. I embraced my season of marriage. Someone will embrace their season of dating. Someone will embrace their season of singleness. It's so good to embrace wherever you're at right now, because God has you in that spot you're in right now for a purpose, and He is preparing you for what you have next, that next chapter. So I just think that's so important. And I also think that some people kind of get too wrapped up in themselves in that season of life, in singleness. I feel like some people get wrapped up too much in themselves, and I feel like you're so good at balancing that. And so what do you have to say to people that focus too much on themselves and then kind of forget about God in that time?
Right. That's huge, because I feel every time I'm going through Twitter, it's everything's about self-love, about do this for yourself. Oh, you don't need that. Focus here, focus. And it's all about me, my. And, in the Bible, it tells us, let me find the verse. It's in Matthew. So in Matthew, it says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind. This is the greatest and first commandment, and second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. So God right there says, okay, first love me, then love others, and then yourself. Yes. And I've always lived by the acronym JOY, Jesus, others, yourself. And I think that's so counterculture right now, because everyone's about me, my, what do I need best? Self-love, this and that. And so I think we need to start living against society and start living for God first, and see what He has for us, and not what we think we know and what we think is best for us.
Because we don't know.
We don't, exactly. Especially during all this time of the pandemic or what's going on, we don't know. So we need to put our eyes on God so that He can lead us. And then,
yes. So we don't need to just find our worth in ourselves, because if we do that, we're never going to be fulfilled. You can find you can find temporary, fulfillment in your own self-worth, but you will find complete fulfillment in your worth in God. And I think it's important not to just follow your heart, but direct your heart, because our hearts deceive ourselves a lot. And so in order to be fulfilled in your own self-worth, you need to start directing your heart to God and not focusing on yourself, because we do not know what's best for us. And I feel like a lot of people are like, oh gosh, like you said, it's all about me, and I have all of this going on kind of thing. But when you're like that, then I feel like then you're losing focus on God, and that's just an easy way to kind of get wrapped up in yourself. So
definitely,
I think that's super important to just kind of remember that. Be like, okay, you do have self-worth, but that's from God, and don't get so wrapped up in yourself and disregard the person who gave you that worth. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So I think that's super important too.
Yes, and I also too think I've been kind of revealed this, but I was listening to a sermon, and they were saying you can't pour out your bucket until you first fill your bucket up. And I feel like when your bucket's empty and you're not getting your satisfaction from the Lord, or you're filling it up with worldly things, you're not able to pour out to other people correctly. And you start to become selfish because you're sitting there with an empty bucket and you can't share anything that you have, or you're just kind of dry. And so you're just stuck with yourself because nothing's pouring into you and you're not pouring out to anything else. And so you're just sitting there, in your selfish state. And I've been there so many times, and I catch myself every day thinking, why am I thinking about myself in this situation? Like, I need to be thinking about this other person. And a great verse that goes along with that is in Philippians, and it says, in Philippians 2:3, it says, do nothing from selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility count others more significant than yourselves. And I just think that's really good because, we always want to look to ourselves first instead of other people. And so I think once we count others more significant than ourselves, then we put ourselves down a pedestal or off the pedestal.
Humble yourself
and
a little
we
bit.
start to humble ourselves, and we're like, okay, like, that person isn't more significant than me. Or, they are more significant than me, and I'm not high and mighty like I think I am. So once we do that, we're able to, like, have a better perspective.
Yeah, and I love the bucket analogy. Like, that's so true. If you have an empty bucket, how are you supposed to pour into other people? And the only way to fill your bucket is with God's water. And it's literally a verse in the Bible, like, if you drink from my water, you'll never be thirsty. And I think that's so important to realize. You can't pour into others if you're not pouring into yourself. And so, like, don't like forget about yourself too. I think it's important to constantly like be bettering yourself and growing yourself in God, and just kind of filling yourself with things of Him. Because I think that's such a good analogy for sure. But also, like I said, you're good at embracing your season of life. Also, when you're in a season of being in a relationship and stuff, what do you have to say to people that are maybe going into college and maybe feel stuck in a relationship they don't feel like they're growing in? What do you have to say to those people? Because I feel like a lot of people feel stuck in relationships and don't feel like they're growing, or they're not going to go anywhere, or they want different futures, or just different things like that.
Yeah. So I definitely would say, taking a step back and, looking at it from a different perspective and saying, okay, is this relationship growing my relationship with God? Am I getting closer to God with this person? And also looking at it is like looking to see if this person is in your future, and is this the person that I want to marry? Is this the person I've prayed for? So stepping out of that and looking, and not, because I feel like once you're sucked into those relationships, you kind of you have those blinders. Yes, you get too comfortable. You have those blinders on, and what they say, love is blind. Well, I've definitely been in that situation, where you just kind of overlook all the bad things, and you just make excuses for the person, or, what have you. But I just definitely think stepping back and, looking at it from the outside perspective and saying, is this what I want forever? Is this what God has for me? And then just praying about it. And I promise you, He will always answer and give you confirmation, because anytime I ask for a confirmation, God gives me like 3 back to back to back, and I'm like, okay. And it could be a friend mentioning it to you, it could be a Bible verse, it could be a song in the car that has exactly what you're talking about. Those kind of confirmations will help you kind of guide to see, God, is this what you want for me? And
like, is that filling your cup?
Exactly.
Because this is the thing, I feel like a bunch of people feel like, okay, I'm in a relationship, I guess I'm stuck. But first of all, you shouldn't feel stuck in a relationship. Like, I've never felt stuck in my relationship with Jake. And you're not, like, if you're stuck, okay, you can dig yourself out of it. Like you don't have to be stuck. You can leave. You don't have to be with someone that doesn't fill your cup, or someone that isn't the person, like, that y'all are not right for each other. You don't have to be stuck in that, and you shouldn't feel stuck, like I said. So I just, like, encourage y'all, if y'all are in a relationship with someone that you just kind of feel stuck and you feel like it's not going anywhere, and it's you're not growing, you don't have to, like, you can end it. You know what I mean? God has such big plans for you. Don't feel like just because you're comfortable, you have to stay in that spot. So, and I know, like, you've been in that situation, I think, and I look up to you so much in so many relationship topics too. So I think that's definitely going to touch a bunch of people too. I love how, on another note, I love how Addy introduced specific praying into my life. I feel like I'm the type of person that doesn't really know how to pray. Like, I didn't when I first, like, I kind of grow, my praying skills are growing, but it's kind of hard for me to figure out how to pray. And when Addy talked to me about specific praying, I was like, oh my gosh, this is really cool. Like, I love this, and it was really cool just like seeing how that evolves. So like, I kind of want you to touch on like where you even got the idea of specific praying and what that does in your life.
So, specific prayers came from my mom. She has a ministry called Shine Ministries, and she had
Her mom is a saint.
I love her. I miss her, actually. But so she had someone come and share their testimony, and it was, a long story, but the main topic of it was specific prayers and how God specifically answered her prayers that were so specific. You were like, really, like, you think,
like, what's going on?
Yes, but dream. What they say. God's a big God, and don't dream small. Like, He will fulfill those big dreams that you have, or big prayers that you have. No prayer is too big for God.
Yeah.
So, anyway, so she kind of introduced that to me, and I was like very intrigued, and I was like, wow, like, I want to start specifically praying. So, once a month, I would write a few prayers on a list, and I would, specifically pray for maybe a specific person in my life or something that I want to happen. Not asking God, like, saying, oh, like, as like He's a fairy, like He's going to grant me a wish, but just specifically praying for, God's will, or if this is your will, God, let this happen. And so I was able to see Him move so big. And I mean, I prayed for specific friends in nursing school, and I just saw God move in their lives, and I was able to reveal to them how I specifically prayed for them, and they were able to hear the prayer that was answered, and it moved them. And so I think it's just powerful to when you pray so specific, you're able, when you see that answered prayer, that came from God because you asked so specifically for it. So, and I hope people don't get discouraged to pray specifically because they're thinking, well, I don't want to be let down, but where's your faith? Like,
you gotta have patience too.
Patience, yes, for sure. And
God's a God of timing, and
definitely.
He'll reveal the answer to the prayer. He'll reveal the healing to the prayer when the moment is right, and
definitely.
That's exactly part of the faith.
Yes.
And I love how when Addy introduced that to me, we immediately started once a month. At the beginning of the month, we would write down prayers, specific prayers that we wanted to be accomplished, I guess you could say, by God.
Yes.
And we would send them to each other, and it was just so cool. Like, at the end of each month, to send each other what prayers either we had left, and like and also seeing how many were marked off, because it was honestly incredible, y'all, just to see how, like, because I feel like it's so easy to pass by and be like, oh, I don't see God moving, I don't see Him moving. But when you catch it in a moment, and you're like, wow, that's that prayer answered. Like, it's so cool just to like see how much He actually moves without you even acknowledging the small things.
Yes.
And I think that was just so awesome, like, for us to do that. And I think if you also don't know how to pray, like how I said it was for me, it was kind of hard figuring out how I wanted to pray. Like, even though talking to God is just like talking to a friend, y'all, let me just tell y'all don't have to have the perfect, most eloquent, whatever
it's just
words.
a conversation.
It's just a conversation with your friend. Like, you can say, yo, dude, what's up, let's talk today. You can literally talk to him like that, like however you want, is a friend. And so yeah, I encourage you to talk to him like a friend, and also pray specifically. Like, see how much He'll move in your life. Like, if you don't know how to pray, just pray a specific prayer. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, like I said. And so yeah, I was so happy, like, she introduced that in my life. And also, we're both, like I said, we're in nursing school together, and I just wanted to see if you had any advice to nursing students, like incoming nursing students in nursing school. Like, what's your advice to them?
So my advice would be to not overthink, because I do that a lot. And I think that honestly kind of held me back from learning, because I was trying to be so, like, caught up in, like, what's the next move, or what do I do here? But, like, if you just, in nursing school, you have to think on your toes a lot. But I think just being led by, just not overthinking it, and also to
just going with the flow.
Going with the flow and enjoying the moment you're in every, you go J1, J2, senior 1 and senior 2, and just enjoy every single moment you're in, and not look to, I can't wait to graduate, because you're going to look back and think, oh man, I loved nursing school. Like, I know it's hard, but just enjoy it, and
don't let your stress get the best of you.
Exactly.
Like, I think stress is good in moderation. I think it's good to have a little bit of stress just to kind of motivate you, but if you're stressing to the point where you're not enjoying your life, that's where it's an issue, and you need to really start focusing or diving deep into that, because that's not how it should be. And so I think it's so important. Don't forget to have fun. Don't forget, nursing school is so important, but don't forget that's not the only important thing in your life, which is also God. But I think all of that was just really good for especially nursing students, but I think really any college student. Remember not to stress too much and have some fun. Get your work done, but have some fun.
Yes.
And I just really hope that y'all had such a good impact out of this podcast. I think her message was so important. Listen to what God's purpose is in your life. Like, for her, she felt like God was calling her to love, and she fulfilled that in so many ways. And don't be scared to do that, because I know it's so easy to doubt yourself and to let the enemy win, and the devil is trying to specifically target what God called you to be good at, and don't let him take that away from you. Don't let him delete that purpose. Like, God has a purpose in your life, and you can fulfill that. And I encourage y'all to just lead with love. Like, when you do lead, remember what you're leading with. And I think everything was good. Did you have anything you wanted to add?
Thank you for having me,
Taylor. Yes. Well, I just love y'all so much. Don't forget to love. You have a purpose. God loves you. And I'm so excited I had Addy on the podcast today. Thank y'all so much for listening to this podcast. It means so much to me, and I have so much fun making these. Don't forget to follow my Instagram at TaylorNJones_, and subscribe to this podcast, Let's Be Real with Taylor Jones, so you can keep up with new and upcoming episodes. Thanks for listening.